Joining me in the Panhandle PBS studio are two men who have given dozens of presentations about construction of a downtown baseball stadium, either for or against. Paul Matney co-chairs Vote for Amarillo, a political action committee that supports the stadium as part of a multi-purpose events venue. He retired last year as president of Amarillo College. And Vince Nowak practices law in Amarillo and has been active in lobbying against the stadium. He is a resident of Potter County. So Vince, first question goes to you. We're going to get this one out of the way. You are a resident of Potter County and therefore can't vote in the November 3rd election. Why have you made this baseball stadium and multipurpose events venue your mission?
Well, a couple things. First, it's not my mission. It's just a project I took interest in. And I did vote this morning. I voted on the constitutional amendments. And frankly, I was invited here to speak, and I appreciate the invitation. But I guess my simple answer to this, Karen, is, I took an interest in this when we were making the deal with Coke last year, and I really took an interest when Potter County was asked to donate $810,000 worth of tax abatements to the issue. We have since agreed to give $1.1 million towards the parking garage, so I guess you can say I got close to 2 million reasons to show my interest.
Okay. Give me your short stump speech for the four positions.
Well, first of all, thank you, Karen, for the opportunity to be here at Panhandle PBS, and it's good to be with Vince again. We've done this before, and we may end up doing it again. But this is a great plan for Amarillo. It's really a vote for Amarillo's future. What this will do is provide a facility down on that footprint of Coca-Cola that's going to do a number of things. It's going to grow economic development. We've had pioneers here that have said what not can we have, what should we have? And so what that facility is going to do, and we're talking about the multi-purpose entertainment venue, or some people call it event venue, is to be a community gathering space for so many people. It's a quality of life issue. The more things that we can have for our students to do, the more things we can have for people of all ages, it is going to drive economic development. It's going to be good for downtown Amarillo. We're going to see the economy grow down there. It's going to create jobs, construction jobs and permanent jobs, because of all of the activity going on down there. And we're going to generate revenue for the city. We run the city a lot on sales tax. $57 million is what we collect in sales tax. And so it's been projected that over a 30-year period, this would actually generate about $5.1 to $5.2 million in sales tax that could be used for general purposes, like hiring police officers, repairing roads, giving to animal management, and so forth. It's a terrific plan. We can afford it. We can pay for it. We're going to use hot taxes for it. I'm sure we'll get into that. But it's just good for Amarillo, and I want to vote for something positive for our city.
I think
Vince?
It's important to note that those voting against it are not voting against Amarillo. I think some of us see that there's better ways to spend our money. I think the $10 million plus that we spent on the Coke footprint, or the clod of dirt, or as it's been referred to, wasn't wise spending. To the extent it becomes a meeting place downtown for Amarillo residents, that's if we have a ball team to play in it, which we currently do not. That's if we get someone to pay a $250,000 lease every single year. So far we don't have that commitment. And that would be on the projected 50 nights out of the year of baseball games. I think there are better ways to spend our money to create a gathering place that will generate the economy downtown. Even if we had $32 million in the bank right now to do anything we wanted to with it, I don't believe spending that on an independent league ballpark is wise.
And speaking against the stadium, you've said you don't have a plan B. Why reject a plan for no plan?
Well, if plan A is in my opinion, wasting $32 million on an independent league ballpark, plan B is not doing plan A. Put it a different way, if plan A is going over Niagara Falls in a barrel, my plan B is don't do plan A.
Should the opposition be offering alternatives?
Well, I haven't heard many alternatives. I did hear someone say, well, if you vote this down, we'll come up with something. Okay? I've heard a few, but not very many. And the reason why the ballpark is the absolute perfect public gathering space for all kind of activities is once you build a baseball field, you have this large space that becomes very, very flexible. Yes, it is about baseball. We'll have a tier anchor tenant in the baseball team, and that will be about 50 to 60 dates a year. But all of the remainder of the year, think what you can do down there. You can have family film nights. That really is going to benefit all of our community. You can have car shows. You can have concerts. If you cover that artificial turf, you can actually put seating there. With the 4,500 fixed seats in the baseball stadium, we can put 9,000 to 10,000 people in there, put the stage in center field. We're going to get concerts that we don't get now. But again, it's much more than baseball. And don't worry about winter weather. These stadiums have been cropping up in the country in far more cold climates than ours. And there are management companies that come in and program winter sports, like snow tubing for kids, like lay some ice down and invite families to come in, sell hot chocolate, bring Santa Claus, have a Christmas tree. So blood drives, staging 10K and 5K races. This is not just a ballpark. We need the ball team to be the tenant. And I can assure you this, independent baseball is good baseball. I saw almost all of the Thunderhead games this year. It's good baseball. Mr. Ellison says he's going to stay. I'm sure he would like to have a new facility. But if we build this new MPEV, we are going to get on the radar screen of minor league baseball. And I can assure you that conversations will be held with major league teams, with ownerships. We're in a perfect place for an expansion of the Texas League or an owner to move their team here. So don't think that we're just building an independent A baseball stadium. We are building a minor league baseball stadium that can handle A or AA affiliated baseball as well. We're going to get on the radar screen.
Go ahead. Is
Well,
this about baseball or beyond? Do you see those other events
Well, you're not
happening?
going to hear me say anything negative about baseball. This is America, after all. But the things Dr. Matney mentioned that we can do in that space, we can already do them. In fact, we're already doing them. We have ball games. We've had a movie night. We have blood drives throughout the city. The fact of the matter is, what I'm hearing is build it and they will come. I don't think that is sound policy, especially, again, when we don't have a team or we don't have someone to lease it right now. And speaking about footprints, I think it would be unwise of us not to take a look at the Wallace-Bajali footprint over in Joplin, Missouri. As I'm sure you all will both know, that their ballpark, the person leasing that, they're only paying $150,000 a year. They did not make their last payment of $37,500, and in fact are asking that their lease be reduced to $50,000. I just think it's wise to look at the experience other towns have had, and Joplin is a prime example in my opinion because again we have the connection with Wallace-Bajali.
Do you have a counter-argument for that?
Well, we have looked at other towns. We've done several studies, one by CSL, Convention Sports and Leisure, and they have a long history of working with sports and leisure facilities. They've been in business for 28 years. They did a consulting study for us. They've worked on 500 consulting projects. They've worked on 40 minor league projects. They have actually proposed 12 minor league stadiums, and they've worked with 29 major league fields and stadiums. And so we have that study. We've also had another study that actually looked at the space requirements, even down to the fact that the ballpark needs to be 159,428 square feet. We've looked at the Birmingham Barons. We've looked at the Dayton Dragons. If you look at Frisco and you look at Round Rock and you looked at Tulsa, you'll see these AA teams. So this is going to be a very nice ballpark. And again, we're perfectly situated for an expansion of the Texas League or another ownership here. But A baseball is good baseball. A baseball and independent baseball is minor league baseball.
You said you attended most of the Thunderheads games.
Yes.
But baseball attendance in Amarillo is down considerably from a couple of years ago.
You know, back in the 1990s, we were drawing between 3,000 and 3,500 people a night. So people will support baseball in Amarillo. But you're not going to get the typical fan like they have in Corpus Christi, where it's the young family who comes to the ball game, they bring their 2 kids, they spread a blanket out on a grass berm, they have a picnic, the kids play in some outdoor playground equipment, the parents watch the game, and then about the 7th inning they say, gee, we've got to get the kids home. That's the typical fan. We don't draw a lot of that fan in Amarillo. If you look at our facility, as much as I love it, Karen, and I've spent a lifetime going out there. My dad took me probably to the first game in 1957. I've played out there, I've announced out there, I've umpired out there. I love that facility. But I promise you, it's at end of life. We cannot spend the money, and Potter County shouldn't spend the money, to upgrade that facility. And we simply don't have many options at all with that facility to attract ball clubs in here.
What's your answer to that?
Well, I think the state of the current ballpark is an indication of whether or not we support baseball in this town. Frankly, I enjoy going to the ball games. I do. But the fact of the matter is we don't have the numbers to support them. And don't take my word for it. Dr. Matney mentioned Convention Sports and Leisure International, CSL, the folks that did our feasibility study in 2010. Well, if you look at the cover letter that they gave us with that report, they said explicitly that they were looking at a feasibility study for a baseball team, a ballpark in Amarillo. I almost said in New York. In Amarillo, and they gave us this report, but they gave us the cover letter that says because our procedure was limited and because our numbers were not audited or verified and were just assumed to be correct, y'all should not rely on this report for that purpose. In other words, do not rely on our report to determine whether or not baseball in Amarillo is feasible.
I'd like to speak to that issue. What Vince is referring to shows that this is a very reputable and experienced firm. Anytime you do any kind of economic projections, operations projections, reputable firms are going to say right up front, as do audits, that look, this is based on information that we were given. It was based on information that we gleaned ourselves through our research, interviews. It was also based on our experience with minor league baseball. This is as experienced a firm as you will find to do these kinds of projections. And so I applaud them on the very first page. But this is typical disclaimer language. And I think that means that they're a serious and reputable company. I think it's really an overreach to say that what they're really saying is, we don't know what we're doing, don't believe any of this stuff. These people are reputable. They've been around for 28 years. They've worked with many, many teams, major league and minor team. It's a very good study. Go on Downtown Amarillo Link's website and look at it.
Wouldn't you also have more specifics about, people have asked about the cost of a ticket or those sorts of things, if the council had allowed negotiations to go forward before this was put on a ballot?
Well, if the LGC had allowed that, we would have probably had architectural and engineering documents, which we don't have. We do have space documents. The HKS, architectural firm in Dallas, very reputable company. They even did space analyses down to how big should the umpire dressing rooms be, and the showers and the locker rooms and also the dugouts. But we didn't have that because the LGC simply didn't give us the green light to do that. If we pass this vote and if the city council elects to move forward, I think that would be the next step for the LGC to start negotiating those things.
And you know, I don't mean to cast aspersions on CSL or their work, but I believe them to be experienced and reputable, and so I'm going to take them at their word when they say do not rely upon our study. You know, we paid another reputable firm down in Dallas, I believe, to do some due diligence on Wallace Bajali. It came up with all sorts of flies that we shouldn't have touched Wallace Bajali with a 10-foot pole, but we did. Let's not repeat history. Let's listen to the people that we paid money to give us advice, and they said don't rely on these numbers.
You have also raised questions about that we would have no assurances that an operator would allow us to use the field or allow the city to use the field for other purposes. Is it a bit disingenuous because wouldn't the city negotiate that on its behalf?
Well, I've seen how we've fared with the city negotiations so far, so I don't have a lot of confidence in that right now. I would hope with the new council that yes, whatever happens on that $10 million Coke footprint is thoroughly vetted with good contracts to protect Amarillo.
Karen, I think that I have great confidence in the past and the current LGC and in our city council to do what's best for Amarillo. And if this vote passes and we move forward with this, I have great confidence that they will realize that the way that's going to be successful as an MPEV is to take that operator and allow the operator to program other activities in our community. This is a gathering space. It's like my friend Keith Grays has said. Keith is a wonderful community leader. He does a great job of representing what he calls North Amarillo. And Keith has said, we ought to all be proud that people from all parts of town will be able to use this as a gathering space. And that's North Amarillo, East Amarillo, West, South Amarillo. I have confidence that we realize that the operator has to do things other than baseball. You know, I keep saying, sometimes I say this is not a baseball vote, this is a vote for our community, because it's so much more than just a baseball stadium.
Sure, but in fact, it is a baseball vote. That's what's on the November 3rd ballot, is whether or not we want to build a $32 million downtown independent league ballpark. And, you know, come November 4th, the sun is going to rise in the east and it's going to set in the west, whether we build a $32 million ballpark or not. There are folks out there practicing hysterics, in my opinion, that, you know, if we build it, it's the end of Amarillo. If we don't build it, it's the end of Amarillo. It's just a $32 million ballpark. I think we can have a nice gathering place downtown. I'm skeptical of the $32 million ballpark model.
We have a short time left. Can you really quickly hit upon your concerns about hot tax and whether it will be there?
Well,
Just a few lines.
You know, on our best estimate, we have $1.78 million left over in hot tax each year. It's going to take about
Hotel occupancy tax, I should say.
Correct. Hot money.
Yeah.
So 1.7 left over, 2.7 to service the debt every year. We got to come up with that extra $1 million somewhere. And whether we call it a water fee, a surcharge, increased rent on a facility, you know, God forbid, ad valorem increase, the money's got to come from somewhere, and the only place government gets its money is from the taxpayers.
Are you sure those funding streams are in place?
Absolutely. They are in place. The pro forma works. The financials are there. This has been worked and reworked, tweaked and retweaked, and it just didn't pop up 6 months ago or a year ago. 8 years, good people of good faith have been working on this along with city staff. We have a plan that works. And what we can do with our hot taxes that, by the way, have grown by 51% since 2010. We even grew during those recession years because of all these motels that are going up and have gone up down along I-40 and I-27. But what we know is that we use hot taxes for the Civic Center Improvement Fund. We'll continue to put hot taxes into that. We'll use it for Civic Center operations. We'll continue to do that. We use it for Civic Center activities. We'll continue to do that for marketing. What we will do is take $1.5 million and we will apply that to retire the debt on the ballpark. We're projecting about a 3% growth each year in hot taxes, and that's conservative. This last year it grew by 6.8%. So the financials are there. We can afford it. It's going to work. It's going to benefit all of our citizens of the community. And a baseball field is absolutely an outstanding public performance venue to do not only baseball, draw that audience, but also all of these other 40 activities that we've identified for our community.
If wishing made it so. The simple fact is the money's not there. Two of the biggest components in the pro forma are the $250,000 lease, which we don't have. And it's my understanding that the current lessee of our current ballpark is giving $50,000 per year in improvements. We're asking someone to pay 5 times that amount. The other is the parking garage. We're slated to collect to net $425,000 every year off of paid parking downtown. Folks in Amarillo are not used to paying for parking, and I think that projection is optimistic.
The $250,000 lease can be made in a variety of ways. We haven't even talked about naming rights. I believe that we've got corporations, you know, we've got 14 commitments from corporations that said if this goes, we would be interested in a suite, a corporate suite there. We have sold we have got commitments from about 400 seats. So there's many ways that $250,000 can be achieved, and I think the operator, whoever it is going to be able to do that.
You have a quick response to that? We're less than a minute.
Well, I mean, come on. Look at our history of baseball in this town. The disrepair of the current stadium doesn't bode well for how we're going to take care of something new. When your child continues to break his bike or his car or his cell phone every year in and out, you don't go out and buy something new. If we can't take care of the park we have, I don't have a lot of faith in a $32 million brand spanking new ballpark downtown when the numbers aren't there to service the debt each and every year. That money's going to have to come from the taxpayers. And I want people to be clear, on November 3rd, what y'all are voting on is a $32 million ballpark. We can do better.
And I would say, Karen, that's exactly what we need to pass. That's exactly what we need in downtown. We can afford it. We've got a plan to do it. It is a vote for the future of Amarillo. It's a vote for my grandkids and my kids, and I think that's exactly what people will do. We have always in Amarillo been bold and courageous and taken those steps forward, and we could go over a myriad of things that we've done. It's time for us to step up again. Let's not think about what is. Let's think about what could be, just like John Mark Ballou has suggested.
And I agree. Let's think about what could be. And in my opinion, what should not be is a $32 million ballpark. I know we're out of time.
Yeah, we are out of time, and now you both got the last word. Thank you for being here.
Karen, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Karen.